All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the origin story of the internet, and believe it or not, it all starts not with some huge success, but with a simple, kind of awkward crash.
So, picture this. It's October 29th, 1969. A student programmer at UCLA is on the phone with his buddy at Stanford, hundreds of miles away. His mission? Send the very first message over a brand new network called the Arpanet. The plan was to type log in. So he types L. The guy on the other end says, yep, got the L. He types O, got the O. Then he types G, and the whole system just dies. Only Low ever made it through.
So, how on earth did this failed message, just two little letters, end up kicking off a global revolution? Well, to get that, we've got to rewind a bit and ask an even bigger question. Why was this network even a thing to begin with?
Yeah, the ARPANET wasn't born from some grand vision of a world filled with memes and social media. Nope, it started with something we can all relate to. Pure, simple frustration. Okay, so picture this. You're Bob Taylor, a big shot at the Pentagon's Advanced Research Projects Agency, or ARPA. And in your office, you've got count 'em, three different computer terminals. Each one only talks to one specific, super expensive computer somewhere else. He just looked at this setup and thought, this is insane. There's got to be a way for one terminal to talk to all of these machines.
And Taylor's frustration? It landed on the perfect idea, one that had been kind of floating around ARPA thanks to this guy, JCR Licklider. His vision for an intergalactic computer network was the big picture dream. But, turning that dream into actual working tech, that needed a totally new way of thinking about how to send information.
And this is where things get really cool. You see, the old way of doing things was called circuit switching. Just think of it like an old-school phone call. You get a dedicated, private line just for you and the person you're talking to. But the ARPANET, it used this brand new, game-changing idea called packet switching. So here's how it works. Your message, let's say it's the word login, gets chopped up into tiny little digital pieces, like little envelopes. We call them packets. Each packet gets an address and is just sent out into the network. And get this, they can all take different routes to get to the same place. Then the computer on the other end just puts them all back together in the right order. It was brilliant, super efficient, super tough, and it's the breakthrough that made the ARPANET actually work. Okay, so the theory was solid. The engineering was there. It was time to flip the switch. What started as this tiny little experiment was about to become a real, thriving community. And when I say small, I mean really small. By the end of 1969, the entire network was just these 4 computers at 4 universities. It was basically a tiny club for scientists who needed to share computer time. But it didn't stay that way for long. The growth was just explosive. I mean, look at these numbers. In just a couple of years, it stretched across the country and even went international. But the big question was, what were all these smart people actually doing on this thing? And the answer, well, it surprised everybody.
Turns out, they weren't just using it to run programs on faraway machines, they were using it to talk to each other. So in 1971, this programmer, Ray Tomlinson, whips up a little program for sending messages. But he had a problem. How do you separate the person's name from the computer's name? He just kind of looked down at his keyboard, saw the add symbol, and figured, yeah, that'll work. And just like that, email was born.
And the impact? It was insane. Just 2 years later, a study found that email, made up a whopping 75% of all the traffic on the network. It was the killer app that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. It proved the real power of the network wasn't just connecting computers, it was connecting people.
So the ARPANET is a huge runaway success. But you know how it is, success creates new problems. The big one was that ARPANET was just one network. All these other, totally different networks were starting to pop up. So how do you get them all to talk to each other?
This new puzzle was called internetworking, literally making networks work together. What they needed was a universal language, right? A common set of rules that any network could understand. That was the only way to build a true network of networks.
And the answer, which was just beautiful in its elegance, came from these two guys, Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn. They developed something called TCP/IP. The best way to think about it is like a universal translator and a global postal service all rolled into one. It set the rules for how to pack, address, send, and receive data so that any network, anywhere, could play ball.
This switchover was a massive deal. On January 1st, 1983, they had what they called Flag Day. The entire Arpanet, all at once, flipped from its old system to the new TCP/IP. That single, coordinated move is really what unified the digital world. You could say it's the moment the modern internet was truly born.
So once TCP/IP was the law of the land, the internet itself really started to take off on its own. New networks came online, and the original Arpanet, the one that started it all, wasn't really the center of the universe anymore.
Its job was done. It had sparked a revolution, it had laid out the blueprint for what came next, and so in 1990, the Arpanet was officially shut down. But its DNA, its whole spirit, was very much alive.
And you can tell how much it meant to the people who built it. Vint Cerf, one of the key architects, he actually wrote this poem, a requiem of the Arpanet, to say goodbye. It's pretty touching, really.
So when you boil it all down, the ideas that were baked into the Arpanet from day one are the very reasons the internet just exploded. You've got packet switching to keep things running smoothly, a decentralized design so there's no single point of failure, and these open, shared rules that basically invited the whole world to come and build on it.
And hey, one last thing, because we have to clear this up. You've probably heard the myth that the Arpanet was built to survive a nuclear attack. It's a great story, but it's just not true. As the director at the time said, it came from a much simpler place: frustration. They just wanted to share these few super powerful computers. The fact that it was so resilient, that was just a happy accident of really, really good design.
And maybe that's the biggest lesson here, right? This was a government project built on the ideas of open collaboration and sharing resources, and it ended up changing, well, everything in ways no one could have ever predicted. It's just a powerful reminder of what can happen when you focus on connection. Something to think about the next time you type login. Thanks for watching.